So Leonardo DiCaprio has a new movie coming out, I think later this year, I think this fall. And I'll let Greg Palast tell you the details about it. And Greg is putting together basically a follow-on that picks up the story. So again, I'll let him tell you all about it. On the line with us, investigative journalist, author, filmmaker. His latest film in the making, Long Knife, Osage Oil and the New Trail of Tears. You can watch the 100-second teaser. I just retweeted it just a moment ago, or you can go to gregpalast.com. Greg_Palast on Twitter or on X or whatever you want to call it. Greg, welcome back to the program. Tell us about, first off, Leo's new movie, and then this movie that you're doing that's back to back with it.
Yeah, well, the movie is Killers of the Flower Moon, and who was killed? Osage natives on the Osage Indian Reservation. You have to understand that at the turn of the 20th century, the biggest oil strike in American history to that point was found on the Osage Reservation. This provided our oil for World War I. It made the Osage temporarily, I say temporarily, the richest people on the planet because they were sitting on top of all this oil. They started developing the oil. And then the government came in and said, no. Even though you purchased, they're unusual, the Osage. They purchased their reservation. That's land they own. They said, you may own this land, but you're still Indians under American care because you're not competent. You're like children. And so they gave the oil to a bunch of big oil companies like Sinclair, Phillips, Conoco. Getty's first big oil strike was taken from the Osage. They got some royalties. And then the government said, well, since you're incompetent, we'll put every Osage will have a white person to handle and protect them and their money, their millions. Well, it didn't take long before we think up to 160 Osage were assassinated by their guardians to take their oil. I'm not kidding you. It was a mass
What state
murder.
was this? Is in Oklahoma?
This is in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So you had over 100 Osage shot in the back of the head, their homes dynamited, run over by cars. We had one instance, remember, they can't get access to their own money, where we had one child die of starvation, even though he had hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank under his name, which the white guardians and the government refused to give to them. They were starving to death and they were shot, killed, blown up. That was the story of Killers of the Flower Moon, which will come out October 20, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. But the Osage said, we're thrilled to have Leonardo tell this story. But we really need you also to say, we didn't disappear 100 years ago, because that story ends about 1923. It's been 100 years. And we're still in this fight. This story ain't over in the least. And at the core of it, we want someone to tell the story of Koch Oil and what they did to the Osage